What does the word bias actually mean? The Oxford Dictionary defines bias as an inclination or prejudice for or against one person or group, especially in the way considered to be unfair. Gender bias is not something new to exist. In fact, it has been in the United States from the very beginning. It is continuing to occur every day around the world and is actually quite common here in the US. For everyone to be able to have a general understanding of the gender bias in the United States, I would like to use the US women's soccer team and how much they are paid versus the US men's soccer team and how much they are paid. 5 members of the US women's national soccer team have filed a wage discrimination act against the US Soccer Federation with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The filing citing features from the USSF's 2015 financial report says that despite the women's team generating nearly $20 million more revenue last year than the U.S. men's team, the women are paid about a quarter of what the men earn. Not only was their paychecks lesser than the men's, but their playing conditions were subpar compared to the men's team as well. Many players on the national team have become increasingly vocal about gender equality in the sport, something that came to light in advance of last year's World Cup in Canada. A group of players led by Abby Wambach filed a complaint in Canada about the artificial turf playing surface, noting that the men's World Cup is played on natural grass. Gender bias only becomes worse for women of color. Kevin Miller and the American Association of University Women said, "The gender pay gap persists across educational levels and is worse for African American and Hispanic women, even among college graduates. As a result, women who complete college degrees are less able to pay off their student loans promptly, leaving them paying more for a longer time than men. Nowadays, it is basically a requirement to obtain, at the very least, an associate's degree from college to get most jobs that pay enough for one to support themselves financially. It makes no sense to require a degree if a company is not able to pay the woman whom they are hiring enough to pay off her loans in a normal amount of time. That's not fair. On top of that, since women are getting paid less, especially women of color, it makes it nearly impossible to get out of debt, all because of their gender and/or skin color." Other people that disagree with my viewpoint on the subject may say they do not see the big deal because there are more women who are employed in the United States than men. They could also mention that, according to Business Insider, fewer women than men are aiming for the very top. Among senior managers, 60% of women say they want to be a top executive, compared to 72% of men. So, if women truly want to be treated as equals, why do they not aspire to be at the top of the company they are employed at? While some of the opposing arguments against the gender bias in the United States may be true, there are many more points and statistics that prove that, in fact, there is a serious wage gap and it's not the women's fault that they're being paid less. While women do hold more jobs than men in the workforce, they are paid 20% less than what men are paid. So while they're the holders of more jobs, they are lower paying jobs, and even if it's equal work. In addition, regarding the statement of only 60% of women wanting to be top executive, that is most likely due to the fact that women are 15% less likely to be promoted than men. Knowing that fact, and knowing that there is a high possibility of gender inequality in a business, that could very well damage a woman's hope and aspiration of becoming something higher within her company. According to a writer for Business Insider, at a study done at 118 North American companies and surveys of nearly 30,000 men and women, it was found that, contrary to popular belief, women are not leaving their organizations at higher rates than men. In fact, women in leadership are actually more likely to stay with their companies than men. In closing, a gender bias does in fact exist, and it is an all too real reality for thousands of women in the U.S., and they are forced to deal with it every day. It has existed for so long, and it will not go away unless serious actions are taken. People need to understand that there is a wage gap between men and women's salaries, and it needs to be fixed. Your looks, color of your skin, gender, or anything else should not determine your worth or how much you're being paid. The only thing that should matter is how much work you're putting into it and how much you are truly benefiting the company you are working for. Nobody, regardless of gender, should be concerned about if they are being paid less than their coworker that is doing the exact same job as them. It just would not be fair. Once employers realize and understand that there should be equal pay for equal work, it would benefit the lives of so many people and families in the United States.